The room went silent the moment Denzel Washington walked onto the stage, calm, steady, carrying the kind of presence that makes people forget to breathe. It wasn't his event. It wasn't his crowd. And it definitely wasn't a place where anyone expected him to call out the former President of the United States. But that was exactly why everyone froze. Something unpredictable was about to happen. Trump had been mid-rant, pacing behind the podium, enjoying the cheers bouncing off the walls of the convention hall. Then he saw Denzel approach. His expression snapped from confident to confused, then to irritated, like someone had just unplugged his spotlight. "Look who finally showed up," Trump muttered into the mic, Hollywood's hero. "What's the matter, Denzel? Run out of movies to lecture us in?" Some people laughed. Most didn't. They were too busy staring at Denzel, who didn't smile, didn't flinch. He simply leaned into the mic and said, in that unmistakably calm voice, "Donald, you've been acting like a real piggy lately." Gasps. Nervous laughter. Phones shooting into the air like fireworks. Trump blinked, stunned, not by the insult, but by who it came from. No one talked to him like that. Not on his turf. "You call me Piggy?" Trump said, hand over his chest. "That's the best Hollywood could come up with?" "I expected more. Maybe an Oscar-winning insult?" But Denzel didn't back down. He tilted his head, eyes sharp. "It's not an insult, Donald. It's a reminder. Leaders don't feast while their people starve." The audience murmured. The energy shifted. For the first time in the night, Trump felt the room slipping away from him. And that's when he fired back, with a comeback so unexpected, so ridiculous, so Trump, that the entire internet would explode within minutes. Trump finally leaned forward, gripping the podium as if this were the moment he'd been waiting for all night. He squinted at Denzel the way he does when he's trying to look tough on TV. The crowd sensed he was about to unleash something loud, something messy, something undeniably Trump. "Oh, I get it now," Trump said, raising a finger. "Hollywood royalty thinks he can stroll in here, insult the next president of the United States, and walk out with applause. Cute. Real cute." Denzel didn't move. His stillness only made Trump more flustered. "You know what, Denzel?" Trump continued. "If I'm a piggy, then you must be the farmer, because you sure love feeding people your moral speeches. Films, interviews, award shows, always telling Americans how to live, how to think. Congratulations. You're officially the nation's #1 hall monitor." A few people laughed, more out of confusion than humor. Denzel simply crossed his hands in front of him. "Donald, I'm not here to tell anyone how to live. I just came to remind you what leadership actually looks like." "Oh please," Trump snapped. "The only thing you lead is a movie set. Lights, camera, lecture. You show up, everyone claps, and then you disappear. That's not leadership, that's a cameo." Gasps. Murmurs. Trump felt momentum returning, his trademark smirk growing. But then Denzel lifted his chin just slightly, enough to silence the entire hall. "Leadership," he said softly, "isn't about applause. Or crowds. Or cameras. Leadership is what you do when no one is watching. And lately, Donald, the whole country's been watching who you really are." Another wave of phones shot up. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Trump opened his mouth to fire back again, but the words didn't come. Not yet. For the first time all night, he looked like he was actually searching for something, anything, that could put him back in control. But what he finally said would send the internet into meltdown. Trump finally straightened his tie, the classic tell that he was about to shift from irritated to theatrical. He puffed out his chest, lifted the mic dramatically, and let out a long, exaggerated sigh, loud enough for the entire hall to hear. "You know what, Denzel," he said. I wasn't going to say this, but since you called me Piggy, I guess it's only fair I return the favor. The crowd tensed. Even the Secret Service glanced up. Trump smirked. You call me Piggy? Well, at least pigs don't pretend to be humble. A ripple of laughter spread, but Trump wasn't done. He leaned forward, eyes wide. Look at you, Hollywood's most serious man. You walk around like you're everybody's dad. Stand up straight. Be better. Work harder. Trump barked in a mock-deep voice, mimicking Denzel's tone. Relax, man. You're one monologue away from giving America a pop quiz. The room exploded with surprised laughter. Even a few people recording shook their phones because they were laughing too hard. But Trump pushed further. And by the way, he added, raising a hand, if I'm Piggy, then you're the whole petting zoo. Calm, wise, dramatic, like a talking lion from a kid's movie. It was absurd. Ridiculous. Pure Trump comedy chaos. Even Denzel had to blink twice. Trump sensed the shift. Finally, he had the crowd fully back. Cameras swung toward him. His voice dropped into that triumphant rally tone. So congratulations, Denzel. Trump shouted. You didn't just insult me. You inspired me. Because from now on, if anyone calls me Piggy, I'll say, hey, at least Denzel Washington thinks about me. The room roared. But Denzel, he didn't laugh. Instead, he stepped closer, so close that Trump's smile faltered. Donald, Denzel said quietly, jokes don't hide the truth. They never have. The crowd fell silent instantly. Because this time, Denzel wasn't coming back with an insult. He was coming with something much sharper. Denzel didn't raise his voice. He didn't smirk, didn't posture, didn't even blink. Instead, he stepped close enough that the stage lights caught the sharp edges of his silhouette. The hall went still, so still you could hear someone's bracelet clinking 3 rows back. Donald, Denzel began, his tone calm but heavy, every time someone challenges you, you hide behind a joke. Behind noise. Behind a nickname. Trump folded his arms, forcing a smirk, but everyone could see the tension creeping up his neck. You call it humor, Denzel continued. But the truth is, it's just camouflage. A way to avoid responsibility. A few gasps flickered across the crowd. Trump tilted his head, irritated. Responsibility? From a Hollywood preacher? Denzel ignored the jab. You can call me whatever you want, Donald. Piggy jokes, petting zoo jokes, lion jokes, pick your favorite. But none of it changes what's really happening. He gestured toward the crowd, then toward the cameras, toward the millions watching. People aren't laughing with you anymore. They're laughing at how desperate your act looks. The words hit harder than shouting ever could. Trump's mouth opened, but nothing came out. For a second, a tiny, fragile second, he looked genuinely stunned. And Denzel wasn't done. You want to know why I called you Piggy? He asked. The whole room leaned in. Because pigs roll in mud, and right now, Donald, you're drowning in it. Scandals, lies, chaos, every time the truth gets close, you kick up more dirt to hide in. A sharp murmur rippled across the audience. Someone whispered, he actually said it. Trump slammed his hand on the podium. That is a disgrace. But Denzel raised a single finger. Just one. Trump stopped speaking. Donald, Denzel said, voice low and steady, leaders clean the mess. They don't live in it. The hall erupted. Gasps, shouts, applause, shock. Trump stood frozen, caught between fury and disbelief. And then, he delivered the comeback that would blow the story open for the entire nation. Trump finally slammed the podium again, this time with both hands, his face turning the exact shade of a ripe tomato. He leaned forward, eyes narrowed, jaw tight, like a man who'd just been cornered in his own arena. The crowd fell into an uneasy silence. Everyone knew Trump was about to snap back, but no one knew how. "Oh, I see what this is," Trump growled into the mic. "Denzel Washington, the moral sheriff of America, has ridden in to save the day. Congratulations, cowboy." A few nervous chuckles flickered through the hall. Trump pointed directly at Denzel. "You talk about mud? You talk about leadership? Give me a break. The only reason anyone listens to you is because Hollywood taught them to." He began pacing, arms waving dramatically. "You're not a leader. You're an actor. You read lines for a living. And now you're reading one right here, pretending you're saving the country from me." Camera zoomed in. Trump was working himself into a full performance. "And let's be honest," Trump added, his voice rising, "if I'm a pig rolling in mud, then you, Denzel, are the guy outside the pen giving TED Talks about it." The hall erupted in mixed reactions, half laughter, half shock. But Trump wasn't finished. "You want to talk about scandals? Lies? Chaos?" Trump said. "Buddy, at least mine aren't scripted. At least I don't need a director yelling, 'Cut,' every time I tell the truth." That line hit like a grenade, loud, messy, and completely Trump. People shouted. People cheered. People booed. The place was chaos. Then Trump stepped forward, leaned right into the mic, and dropped the line that would ignite the internet like dry brush. "And Denzel, if you're calling me Piggy, then guess what? You're just mad because for the first time ever, someone isn't impressed by your dramatic pause." The crowd howled. Trump spread his arms wide, victorious, at least in his own mind. But while the room exploded around them, Denzel didn't move an inch. He simply looked at Trump, with a calm that cut deeper than any insult. And what he said next would flip the entire moment on its head. Denzel didn't blink. Didn't smirk. Didn't move. He let Trump's roar echo through the hall until it faded into scattered laughter and shaky applause. And when the noise finally dipped, Denzel stepped forward, slow, deliberate, like a man walking through smoke toward a target he'd already chosen. The crowd sensed the shift instantly. Phones lifted again. The room leaned in. "Donald," Denzel said calmly, "you think this is about dramatic pauses? About Hollywood? About applause?" He shook his head once, almost pitying. "No. This is about something you haven't understood your entire life." Trump tensed, gripping the podium like it was a shield. Denzel continued, voice steady as stone. "You call my words scripted. But here's the truth, real leadership doesn't need a script. Real strength doesn't scream. Real power doesn't panic every time someone tells you the truth." A low murmur rippled through the room. "And you want to know what's really funny, Donald?" Denzel added. "You're right, I am an actor. I read lines. I play characters. I pretend." He paused, eyes narrowing just slightly. "But I stop pretending when the camera turns off." The crowd erupted in "oh" reactions. Trump stiffened, eyes wide for half a second, just long enough for everyone to notice. Denzel didn't let up. "You want to talk about mud? About chaos?" Denzel said. "Fine. Let's talk about it. Because every time America looks at you, they don't see strength. They don't see leadership. They see a man throwing dirt everywhere hoping no one notices the mess he made." The audience held its breath. "And that's why I called you Piggy," Denzel said, voice low. "Not to insult you. But because you keep acting like the mud is your kingdom." Gasps. Applause. Shock. Trump raised a finger, ready to fire back, but Denzel stepped even closer. "And one more thing," he whispered into the mic, "you can make jokes about my career, my speeches, my pauses. But you can't joke your way out of the truth." The hall froze. "America's watching you, Donald. And for the first time, they're not laughing with you." A silence heavier than any punchline settled across the room. Trump's face fell. And the entire audience knew. The real fight had just begun. The moment Denzel finished speaking, the atmosphere inside the hall shifted from tense to electric, like a storm cloud had cracked open above everyone's heads. People weren't just reacting now. They were processing. The crowd looked back and forth between Denzel and Trump as if witnessing a heavyweight fight where one punch landed just a little too clean. Trump stepped back from the podium, chest rising and falling, his confidence wobbling in front of millions watching live. His trademark smirk, the armor he wore everywhere, was nowhere to be found. And that's when the camera zoomed in, and caught it. A flicker. A tiny one. But unmistakable. Uncertainty. Within seconds, it exploded online. Tweets. Reactions. Edits. Memes. Did Trump just get outacted by Denzel? This wasn't a debate. This was a demolition. Piggy versus precision. Denzel wins. Cable news jumped on the story like sharks in bloodied water. Anchors shouted over each other. Denzel didn't attack Trump, he unmasked him. This might be the first time Trump didn't control the narrative. Is this the crack in the MAGA shield? Meanwhile backstage, Trump's advisors were in meltdown mode. Phones rang. Staff yelled. Two aides argued loudly. "He looks rattled, get him off stage." "No. He'll look weaker leaving. Let him finish." "Finish what? He's losing the room." Trump glanced toward the wings, clearly waiting for someone to save him, but no one stepped in, because no one could. Denzel remained still, watching him with that same calm, unshakable stare. It wasn't arrogance. It wasn't performance. It was presence. The kind Trump usually dominated but suddenly couldn't match. Then, from the back of the hall, a voice shouted. "Let Denzel speak." Another followed. Then another. And suddenly, the chant began to grow, loud, rhythmic, undeniable. Denzel. 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 Trump's face drained. For the first time in his long, chaotic, spotlight-hungry career. The crowd didn't want him. They wanted the man who walked in with no script, no staff, and no fear. And this was only the beginning of the collapse. The chant didn't fade. It grew, louder, sharper, echoing off every wall in the hall. Denzel. 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 It was the kind of sound that could break glass, or an ego. And Trump felt every syllable like a jab to the ribs. He slapped the podium twice, trying to regain control. "Stop. Stop the chant. This is my event," he barked. But no one stopped. If anything, they yelled louder. For the first time, Trump's voice wasn't the loudest thing in the room. Denzel didn't raise a hand to silence them. He didn't bask in the applause either. He simply stood tall, steady, grounded, as if he already understood the moment better than anyone else. Trump's mic squealed with feedback as he shouted again. "This is ridiculous. You're cheering for an actor." Someone from the crowd yelled back. "At least he's a better leader." The room erupted. Trump froze. Denzel turned his head slightly, acknowledging the voice but not encouraging it. It was a masterclass in presence, effortless, controlled. Then the unexpected happened. A major news network cut into the broadcast with a breaking cheerin'. Crowd turns on Trump as Denzel Washington takes control of the room. Inside the hall, Trump's aides panicked. One whispered harshly into his earpiece. "Leave the stage. Now. You're losing them." But Trump refused to back away. He gripped the mic like it was the last rope keeping him from falling. "You people are being manipulated," Trump shouted. "This man is a performer. He memorizes lines for a living." Denzel finally stepped forward. "Donald," he said gently, "I didn't memorize a thing." The room fell silent instantly, so fast it was unnerving. Denzel continued. "I'm not here to take your spotlight. I'm here because the truth deserves a voice. And tonight, it wasn't yours." A wave of muffled "damn," and he said that? Rippled across the crowd. Trump stared at Denzel, stunned, powerless for the first time in memory. And then it happened. A camera zoomed in on Trump's face just as he muttered under his breath, unaware the mic was still hot. "I can't beat him." That clip hit the internet within seconds. And the country exploded the moment Trump's whispered, "I can't beat him," leaked online. The story stopped being a stage clash, it became a national spectacle. Within minutes, every major network cut regular programming. Panels scrambled to react. Hashtags detonated. Hashtag Piggy vs. Denzel. Hashtag Trump meltdown. Hashtag he can't beat Denzel. Commentators looked stunned, like they were watching a political earthquake unfold in real time. "This is unprecedented," one analyst muttered. Another whispered, "He actually admitted defeat," on a hot mic. Meanwhile, inside the hall, chaos erupted. Trump's team rushed the stage, waving their arms, trying desperately to shut down the live feed. But it was too late. Millions had already heard it. Trump looked around, wild-eyed, sweating, confused. Like a man realizing he was losing not just the room, but the entire storyline of his public persona. He grabbed the mic again, voice cracking. "That audio is fake. AI. Deep fake. Movie magic. Denzel probably edited it himself." It was the weakest defense of his career. People laughed, not with him, but at how absurd the excuse sounded. In the middle of the chaos, Denzel stayed still. Not triumphant. Not smug. Just centered, like a man who understood the gravity of what had just shifted. Cameras swiveled back to him. "Donald," Denzel said softly, "this isn't about beating anyone. It's about telling the truth before the country forgets what it sounds like." Someone in the audience shouted. "Preach, Denzel." The hall roared with applause. Trump slammed his fist on the podium. "You're all being manipulated. He's acting." Denzel stepped closer. "Donald, if this is acting, then why does it feel more real than anything you've said tonight?" The audience erupted again. Trump's face twisted, anger, embarrassment, fear, three emotions he could never hide well. His team dragged him by the arm toward the curtains, whispering furiously. "You're done. Get off the stage now." And as Trump disappeared behind the velvet drapes, the crowd kept cheering, not for a politician, not for a celebrity, but for a man who had finally said what nobody else dared to say. That night, every headline in America ricocheted with the same message. Denzel didn't just confront Trump. He exposed him. And the world was ready for the finale. By sunrise, the fallout had become impossible to contain. Every major outlet, from cable giants to independent streamers, replayed the moment frame by frame, Trump being escorted off stage while the crowd chanted Denzel's name like a rallying cry. It wasn't just viral, it was seismic. Polls shifted overnight. Commentators called it the loudest silence in political history. Even Trump loyalists struggled to spin the moment. The hot mic clip, "I can't beat him," became the most replayed audio in the country. TikTok remixes, reaction edits, slow-motion breakdowns, even gospel choir versions. The internet turned it into cultural currency. And Denzel? He hadn't spoken since leaving the stage. He didn't need to. By mid-morning, crowds gathered outside news stations holding signs that read, "We choose truth." Denzel said it. Piggy Panic 2024. Inside the White House, aides scrambled. One whispered to a reporter, "He's furious." Not at Denzel, at the crowd. Trump attempted a live-stream emergency address, but every time he accused Denzel of Hollywood trickery, the chat filled with pig emojis and quotes from Denzel's speech. Across the country, something stranger happened. People who had never cared about politics suddenly cared about truth-telling. Clips of Denzel's calm voice circulated with captions like, "Leadership isn't noise. Presence over panic." It became a movement without him even trying. That night, Denzel released a single statement, just 14 words. "I didn't go there to fight him. I went to remind the country who we are." Those words hit harder than any punchline. Even critics, even skeptics, even people who didn't like him admitted one thing. He changed something. With one moment. One sentence. One truth. And as America settled into the most talked-about night of the year, one headline captured the mood of the entire nation. Denzel didn't defeat Trump. Trump defeated himself, live. The story was over. But the shift had just begun, and there you have it, one moment, one sentence, and the entire narrative flipped. Denzel didn't shout, he didn't need to. His truth cut through Trump's noise, and the nation felt the shift instantly. If you want more stories they try to bury, more moments that expose the real cracks in power, hit that subscribe button. This is only the beginning.